Welcome guys, welcome to part 3 of this tutorial series. In this one we'll be adding some rotation, some velocity, moving up and down for the ship. So pretty much you're going to have a complete system watching this tutorial. You'll be able to take off, land, move forward, move around, whatever you'd want to do with a ship you'll be able to do. And I think this is overall a successful sort of tutorial series that are going to show you exactly what can be done with a few nodes in a blueprint. Now please remember, if you comment and subscribe to the video, you will be part of a ongoing giveaway. So at the end of the month of January, I will pick a winner from the pool of people that have commented and subscribed to the channel, and you will be winning all of my projects from Unreal Engine and Blender if you are picked. So yeah, let's not delay the last part any longer, and let's begin. So you can then head on over and fly your own ship. Just remember, you can get the project files from Patreon or from Creo. They are available for free to download. There's no subscription or anything like that needed. You can just get the project files. So yeah, let's get to it. So if you really think about it, the liftoff, the landing and the liftoff are done. But now let's add some functionality to the ship where we are able to look up and down and also roll to left, from left to right, and also be able to roll the ship around. So moving, looking with the mouse up and down is fairly easy. We just need to go into our project settings, press the new axis map button. We'll call this move up. And then in here, we're going to select, well, actually, we're going to go in here, select the mouse, and then pick mouse. We can do mouse Y, and then we'll leave that value to a +1, and that should be fine. Then we're going to go back into our blueprint in here for the ship and go into the event graph. And I'm going to go down here. I'm going to type in move up so I can get that axis event. With that selected, I can now get an if branch. So I've got this branch in here where I'm gonna set I can set the condition based on speed and other such factors. Like, for example, maybe you don't want to be able to look up and down if the value of the thrust here is not higher than a certain amount. Now, if you don't want to do that, you can skip this altogether and just add torque in degrees. So if you do that, make sure you've got the acceleration change ticked on, nothing in the bone, and the target is the ship. So I'm just going to drag the ship over here into the target. Now, in order for us to be able to add some torque into here, we're going to use the right vector. So I'm just going to put get right vector, and I'm gonna it's the one for the transformation, and I'm gonna make sure that the ship is plugged in there, otherwise it won't know who are we getting the right vector of. And then in here I'm going to add a multiply node, and we can hook this up into the torque value. But then we've got to use the axis in here, so we can drag this out, put a multiply in there, and then we can put this into here, right? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new variable, and I'm going to call this forward torque hour. I'm going to make sure that this is set into a float, and I can compile, so I can add a value. And I can add, let's say, I don't know, a value of 40. And then I'm going to compile. This should be done. Let's try it out. We're going to go into here, press the play button, and we'll go and lift the ship up a bit. So now, if I use the mouse, fortunately nothing is happening. So let's have a look at what might not allow it to run. Let me just have a look. Yes, I've sort of forgotten to actually put the forward torque in here. Now I'm gonna press compile and I'm gonna press play. Let me just take the ship, go up, and now as you can see, if I drag the mouse downwards, I'm looking up. If I put the mouse forward, I'm looking down. And in order to invert this, you would just have to go into your project settings and either put this to a -1, and then it will invert that. Now the value here will decide how quickly that rotation happens. So again, this is very useful because obviously we go up and then you can sort of look, as you go up, you can look downwards with the ship. So I can see I'm still going upwards. You can look downwards with the ship, or you can also look upwards with the ship. But you can't look left and right as of yet because we need to create that move left and right. To move left and right, or rotate left and right more like, this is pretty much kind of the same concept. So we'll go into our project settings, click the plus button, and we're going to call this move right. And then we can add two keyboards. So this is going to be A and D. And we want to make sure that, for example, A is a -1 and D is 1. So then it's the opposite. Then we're going to go into our blueprint. I'm going to copy all this stuff down here because we're going to use the same thing. But in here we need to bring the move. Sorry, not that. We need an input map. So let me just move right. So we need the axis event, move right. We can plug that in there. We can't use the right vector for this one. We need to get the up vector. So get up vector, and that's for the ship, and we're able to plug that in there as well, which will be okay. But then we need to create a new value. So I'm going to press the plus button here. I'm going to call this side torque power. And the side torque power, I would go, let me just compile. I would go for like maybe like a 200. Let me just delete this and drag the side torque power. And then in here we can just put the axis value. Okay, now we press compile, no errors given, that's great. I'm gonna go back into here, press the play button. I'm now controlling the ship, and if I press A, goes to the left, and D goes to the right, and I can look downwards and upwards, and I can also go up and down, which is really good. Now for the roll animation. So for this, I'm going to go into project settings, add a new button, and I'm going to call this roll, which is fine. Then in here, I don't know why I keep doing that. I'm going to press the mouse and select mouse X. And I'm going to leave that to 1 for now. And I'm going to go into the back into the blueprint. I'm going to get my roll. Let me just find it first. I'll just put the context sensitive. Hopefully I'll be able to find this quicker. There we go, a roll. And I'm going to copy all of this stuff again, bring it down like that, and then connect it. We can connect the axis value in here. We need to get another vector, not the up vector. We're gonna get the get forward vector. Plug that in there, and then again for this we need to add a new parameters. So I'm just going to a new variable, so I'm going to call it torque rotate, compile. And this is not, I mean, again, this is something that you need to play around with yourself, but I'm going to put it to 100, and I'm going to drag this in here and then press compile again. Let's see if that works okay. So we should be able to use our mouse. Yeah, and if I go to the left, if I go to the right, it goes to the left. If I go to the left, it goes to the right. Now, again, this is something that you might want to change in here. So I would recommend actually putting this to a -1, so then it sort of mirrors what you're doing. So this is pretty much set up now. You've got all of these free functions in here that are allowing you now to you know, roll, look up, down, and rotate, but we don't have any forward movement. Now I'm going to do a simple system for forward movement, but in the next video we're going to use the setup from my previous tutorial, the one where I show you how to fly a ship, and we're going to be able to do a bit of a more, as I said, a more complex sort of version of what we got here, and that's going to be like the refinement stage of this. Now, in order for us to get some movement, we need to create a few variables that is going to control the velocity of our ship. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create 2 more variables, actually 3 more variables. One of them is going to be called thrust, and it's going to be a float. Then I'm going to create a new one that I'm going to call max thrust. And then I'm going to create another variable which is going to be called forward velocity, and that's going to be a vector instead of a float. We can compile, and then these will have the value of 0. Max thrust will put a value of 1000, and then thrust will stay at 0 as well. Now for us, in order to drive the thrust, we will go into project settings and create a new axis mapping, and we're going to call this thrust. And we're going to add 2 keys, one of them being W, and then the second one will be S, and we'll put this as a 1 to -1. Obviously, you can have whatever key bindings you want. With that done, we can go in here and we can actually bring in the event, the action, the input event. So let me just find it. So that's it, the thrust there. With that added in, we can then create a branch. Because we'll need a condition in here, and basically what we're trying to do is negate any sort of errors into, well, we're trying to return an A value if true, or if nearly equal to B. So it's basically going to have like a tolerance in there that will serve as a condition to set our thrust speed. So we'll bring that in here, type in nearly equal float. We'll put a tolerance of 0.1, and then we'll put that into the condition. Okay, so this is going to help us, and you'll see why, because we're going to do a bit of very simple math here to set the thrust speed. So if it's true, we are going to set a thrust, and then we need to input in here obviously some values. So it's all going to be derivative from the axis in here. But we want to have a lerp between the max thrust, so I'm going to plug that in here. We already have that set up as 1000, so we want to do a lerp between a value of 0 and the max thrust, which is 1000, but we need an alpha to correlate the axis push, so the axis can either go to +1 or -1. Okay, so if it's +1, it will add speed. If it's -1, it will decrease the speed, but we don't want it to go backwards. So this is why we're doing this. So in here, we're going to add an f_interp2. So as you can see, it says in here, it tries to reach target based on distance from current position, giving a nice smooth feeling when tracking a position. So our target will be the max thrust in here. So that's going to be our target. This is going to happen in delta time. So we're going to get world delta seconds, and we're going to plug that in. So basically for every frame, that this will be tracking based on the frames that are passing in the game. And then an interpolation speed, this is how quickly it interpolates between, reaching from the value of current to the target, and the value of current will be the thrust that's set at that point. So then in here, we're going to interpolate at speed of 0.1. If you leave it to 0, it will just jump to the value that we set in the target. If you put it at 0.1, it will slowly go from the current to the target. Now the current obviously will be 0 there. So then we can put that into the thrust here, because we're trying to set it. And now what we want to do is we want to bring the axis over into the alpha. But if we do it like that, we're going to have some issues on our hand, because it will basically just +1 all the time. So at this stage, if you press W, you'll go forward, but if you press S, you'll go backwards, which is not something that we want. We want to slow down the ship to a crawl. By the way, if we compile and play now, nothing will actually happen. So I'm going to show you that very quickly. If I compile and press play and go, we can't actually move the ship because we don't have a forward velocity. That's where this is going to come in. So in here, to make this work, we're going to, let's just bring this node down in here. We're going to add a plus, and we're going to add a +1, Okay, and then we're going to divide it, let me just see by what amount. So we're going to divide it by 2. So let me just put the divide in there, and we're dividing it by 2. Now, how does this, I'm going to explain to you in just a second how this works. But we're also going to have to create in here a sequence. So the first thing we're running this sequence, and then after that we are setting the velocity. So let me just find it. Set velocity. Why is it not showing up? There we go. Set forward velocity. So we want to set that up, and we're going to set that based on the forward vector of the ship, and we are going to multiply. We're going to multiply between the forward vector of the ship and the thrust value. And because, obviously I'm gonna do a very short explanation now. Let me just compile this and I'll explain how this functions. So the way this functions is that when we press the button in here, we are pretty much firing +1 or -1 here. So we're saying +1 +1, that's 2 divided by 2, which will be 1. Okay, so we're feeding through into the alpha 1, which will then tick in here +1. But if we are then let's just then take it from backwards. So if we're now feeding -1, so it's going to be it's going to be -1 + 1, which equals 0, divided by 2, which will be 0. So then that means that our value can never go below 0. Okay, so then we're feeding right here, we're feeding 0, which means that the ship will stop, will come to a standstill rather than go in reverse, which is not what we want. We want it to keep going forward or stand still. Okay, so that's pretty much how this functions. So when we run these numbers, either a +1 or a 0 through here, it will then go in here, it will interpolate on a certain value, so 1 or -1. We can actually try 1 here, so we make the value go faster, and then it will feed through into the thrust, and the thrust, so this is sequence 1, as you can see here. So once this is done and we set the thrust, then it will go over here and we get, let's say, +1 times whatever the forward vector of the ship is, and then it feeds into the forward velocity. Now the forward vector keeps going up, the thrust keeps going up as well, which you can imagine that the speed goes higher and higher the more this keeps going, but obviously it's all limited by the max thrust, because this is what we're feeding into the target speed here. It can never go beyond this, and the forward velocity will stop gaining any more momentum at that point. So now we just need to set up the forward velocity, which is a very quick fix as well. Now what we need to do when we set the forward velocity, as I've said, this is not a complex system either, because we're trying to then run that particular momentum once we've sort of established whether or not our ship is high up in the air enough or not. So for us to be able to do that, we'll just add in a branch over here. So we're just going to connect this, and if it's false, we're going to go up, and if it's positive, if it's true, we're going to move forward. So the condition for this, we will do a greater or equal. So then we'll put the thrust in here. So if the thrust is greater or equal to 1,000, then it's true. So then we'll set the forward velocity. If that is below 1,000, then we'll be able to just go up and down using the C and V letters on the keyboard. So now I want to set up the physics linear velocity. So I'm just going to put set physics, and you've got max angular velocity and so on, but what we're looking for is set physics linear velocity for the ship. Okay, And then in here in the new value, we are going to feed the forward velocity. So let me just then go to the interpolate. Where did we set up it? Right here. I'm just gonna put this at 1. Okay. Let's just do it. And one thing that I want to do as well for the thrust in here, I'm going to print string, and I'm gonna put this in here so we can see the thrust on the screen. Okay, I'm gonna press compile, and then I'm gonna press play. Let's go into the ship. So the ship can go up and down right now, which is great. Okay, now if we start, you can see the thrust level there is 499 as it says in there, right? So I'm just going to press the forward button, and nothing happens for some reason. Let me just have a look. Something must be wrong in here. So the reason why nothing was happening is because I set the thrust over here too high. So we need to put this at maybe like 100. So let's do a compile, and then let's play. I'm going to the ship, and for some reason the ship is going forward on its own. Okay, and I can't stop it. So let me just have a look. There must be something else in here that is not helping me out. So I've got the four velocities being set from here. Let me just have a look. So we don't have any value for thrust. We've got 1000 for maximum thrust, which is what we wanted. So it must be in here where we're doing the calculations. So let me just have a look. It seems I forgot to add the logical. We're trying to do not in here. So let me just find it. This is a boolean, not a boolean, this one here. And this returns the logical complement of the boolean value, so not a. So we're just gonna put this in here and then plug it like that. And now that we compile and we press play, have a look. Yeah, the ship is standing still. We can go up, we can go down, and now we can go forward, and we can also stop the ship. So let me just go forward like that. And now you can see the value on the left side as it increases. Now I'm just going to turn around and go towards the platform, and I'm going to slow down now. Actually, I'm slowing down too much. Let me just slow down a bit now. And once we reach the threshold, we see we can now go up, and we can also go down again as well. So that's pretty much it. That's the land there, and you can see that's physics-based as well. So now we can go up, go down. Obviously, the value of up and down is very fast at the minute. So you are able to go in there and change that into the thrust. So we know we've got 5,000, we could probably change that to 500. And if you compile and you play, then you'll be able to go up and then go down, which is a bit better. And again, you can sort of fly, turn around. Ooh, okay. I need to get a bit used to this. So again, go up, and now we can slow down. And you can see right now I can't actually go up and down because I still have plenty of speed. So I will have to slow down even further, and now I can go up and down based on those parameters. So anything under 100 can work, but once you go past the velocity of 100, you won't be able to go up and down. And this, obviously, you can play around with these settings to make it work based on whatever preferences you've got. But yeah, that's about it. Right now you're able to land, move the ship around, fly the ship around, and you're able to land it and take off. So yeah. And you finally made it. The end of the tutorial, the end of part 3, which is the end of this series. I hope you guys enjoyed and really learned something special here. If you want to reward me for the tutorial and the time I've put into this, please consider give me a coffee. buy me a coffee, or go and buy one of my projects on ArtStation or Gumroad or Creo or Patreon. And that, but I'm a coffee lover. I love coffee, so if you guys want to buy me a coffee, feel free. Just remember, you can get all of my projects from Patreon and Creo and the YouTube membership, all of them for one monthly payment, and then you'll get access to those projects and anything that comes after. But in any case, if you'd like to support the channel, as I've said, just feel free to do that. Don't forget about the giveaway. Comment and subscribe to the channel, and you will have a chance of winning all of my projects in the end of the month of January, where I will do a giveaway, a prize draw. So yeah, keep creating, keep watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you.